Story 1. I made one of the most idiotic decisions I've ever made a few years back. Ultimately led me straight to a downright horrible and absolutely barbaric situation with someone that I presume is honestly a serial killer, or even worse, potentially. I'm a 21-year-old girl, and this took place about 3 years ago, to be exact. I was 18 at the time, and I had just graduated high school. It was the middle of August, and it was a relatively boring day. Up until this point, my summer vacation was extremely boring. My dad and I lived alone, and he was extremely protective of me, so much that he was abusive to me emotionally and psychologically. He wouldn't let me have any friends whatsoever. And every day, I had to stay home to either help him with chores around the house or pretty much to be his personal slave. Even took my bedroom door off the hinges to make me feel completely powerless. He never let me have an ounce of privacy. And so he finally got me a phone, which was about a month before this all took place. He would usually take my phone at 8 o'clock every night. But he was extremely drunk this night, and he didn't get home from the bar until after 10 o'clock or so. I guess he forgot either that or he thought I was asleep, so he didn't bother. I'm not sure. Probably a mixture of both. I had Tinder on my phone, and I used that as an escape to meet new people and to socialize through all my years of isolation. I was never really able to meet any good friends. Most of the kids at my school either pretended to be my friend or just flat out picked on me and did their best to make my life a living hell. I had been talking to this guy, who we'll call Alex for this story, on Tinder for just over a day, and our friendship progressed pretty quick. I had to be careful though, because my dad would snoop through everything on my phone, so I had to delete anything on it that my dad would not be okay with every night before giving him my phone, which 100% included Tinder. He would have killed me if he knew I was on there. Anyways, this guy I was talking to was 28 years old, and at the time him being much older attracted me, and it boosted my confidence that an older man was talking to me. Looking back, even just a few years ago, I can see how it was definitely kind of creepy of him to be talking to someone my age. Anyways, I sort of told them about my situation at home, and he said that I could come live with him. He reminded me that I'm an adult now, and legally, I don't have to abide by my father anymore. I was extremely excited by this, but also terrified. He told me that he could pick me up tonight, and that I should get my things ready. I told him that I really wasn't ready for that yet, and that I just wanted to hang out for now. And I asked him if that was okay, to which he agreed. He told me he would be there to pick me up at midnight, and I said okay. I told him that I needed to be back home by 4 a.m, and he said that was okay too. Also told him not to drive down my driveway and should just park on the side of the road, and to text me when he's here, and that I'll just come out. My dad's house had kind of a long driveway, and I was scared that my dad would somehow hear him pulling up and wake up. So I figured him parking further away would be much safer for us. He then told me that he preferred to talk over text, and so he asked me for my number. I gave it to him, but I told him that on any other normal night, unless prompted otherwise, to not text me after 8 o'clock. He already knew about my dad, so he agreed. Sure enough, Alex showed up like 5 o'clock, and he texted me to let me know he was outside, like I asked him to. I texted him back and said that I'll be out in just a few minutes. I snuck out of my window, and I started making my way down the driveway, and I didn't see any sign of Alex. Like I said before, my dad has a decently long-sized driveway, and each side has a bunch of trees that outline the entirety of the driveway, all the way down to the end of the road by the mailbox. I thought it was weird, because I figured I would see a light coming from his car or something. But I think I just figured he had his car turned off to be more low-key and less suspicious, since he knew about my dad as I was walking down the driveway. I was probably about halfway to the road, started to do some whispering. I sat there for a moment just observing, and then I heard him burst out in laughter and quiet down really quickly again. And then the whispering continued. I started walking again, ever so softly. I made it within probably 20 feet of who I thought to be was Alex. I could finally start to hear what was being said. Came to the conclusion that he was on the phone because he was having a conversation, but nobody was speaking back from what I could hear. Now, I can admit I was eavesdropping, and this isn't something I would normally do, But given the circumstances of the situation, pretty sure you could understand why I had my guard up so high. I'm extremely glad I did, because I would probably be dead right now if I hadn't. And that's when I heard the most sickening and disturbing thing I've ever heard in my entire life. He began bragging to whoever he was on the phone with about how he was waiting for me and how he was going to rape the shit out of me and I, quote, keep me alive for as long as possible. I literally almost puked when I heard this. And I made a bit of ruckus, apparently, because right after Alex seemingly became eerily and abruptly quiet. I thought about running back inside, but I thought I had a better chance of just hiding. I ran back in the direction I came from, towards the house, and I took a hard right into the woods and I hid in the spot that I knew about. I figured I would be safe now. About 5 minutes had passed, and not a single noise came about, and I got a text. It was from Alex. "Where are you?" he asked. Obviously ignored it, and then I turned my ringer off. He then began blowing my phone up with messages and calls, until I finally picked up after probably the 5th time I've been calling me. I thought it would be a much better idea to answer the phone and to come up with a lie, make an excuse about how I can't come tonight, and how I'm really sorry and that we should hang him out another time. He didn't buy it though. I think he knew I was onto him. He started getting extremely angry with me and trying to make me feel better by telling me I wasted his time. And that's when his true colors came out. Started cussing me out and telling me about how horrible I am and how no guy will ever love me and that sort of thing. And then he said something that truly frightened me to my core. "I know where you live. Just remember that. I hope you sleep tight, honey. I'll see you soon." Then he hung up. Almost right after that, I heard a car turn on and speed off. And that was thankfully the last time I heard from him. I really wanted to keep the peace because he knew where I lived, and I was just hoping he would stay away after this. I lied awake all night in bed, wondering if he was going to come back or not. You know, I was terrified he was going to kill me. I blocked him on Tinder and from my phone number as well. And I called my grandmother the very next morning, while my dad was at work, and I told her what happened. I completely confided in her about my dad and told her about how horrible he had been to me my whole life. She came and picked me up, and we didn't tell my dad anything at all about what happened. My grandma always knew my dad was horrible, but she never knew truly just how bad it was to me at home. I was too scared to tell anyone about it for the longest time, but it was surely the best decision I've ever made. I've since been much happier and I'm working on getting my own place with my girlfriend. Life has been moving along, and I've been healing and getting better each day. I tried to contact the police, but they told me they couldn't do anything without any proof, so I knew I was screwed. It's more than likely that Alex is still out there hurting others, if that's even his real name. Story 2. Andrea, 25, from London, met a man on the OkCupid app. He worked as a chef and seemed quite adequate. On their first date, the guy invited her to play billiards. During the game, he told her that he had had a rough childhood and that he had stabbed another student at school. The scary thing was that the man didn't regret it and said he deserved that ending. Andrea immediately began to think of a way to escape as soon as possible. Suddenly, the new acquaintance made a strange compliment to the girl. He said that if he had killed her, he would have made a ham out of the bottom and hung the top in his room, and admired it by the source of the article News and Pictures magazine, from which everyone copies the content. Bigpicture.ru. Upon hearing the creepy words, Andrea said she had to go urgently to catch the last train. The man clearly didn't want to say goodbye, but he walked her to the station after all. After the creepy date, the pervert still texted the Brit and tried to explain why she needed a bad guy. Andrea wrote that she didn't like him, and that was the end of their communication. For a long time, the British woman was hesitant to date men from dating sites. Now she prefers to get acquainted in real life. The girl says you should always listen to your intuition and leave if you feel uncomfortable. It is our right to say no.